Let's make this creamy smooth coconut panna cotta.
When it jiggles like that, you know you did it right.
The base comes together with a blend of coconut milk and heavy cream for that signature silky smooth texture, perfectly infused with coconut flavor.
It's so good.
This is one of those recipes that required several rounds of recipe testing to get just right. So stay tuned as I'm going to share everything I learned so that you can get it right on your first try. So step 1 is blooming our gelatin. I did this with a half a cup of cold water and 4 teaspoons of gelatin powder. And you just want to sprinkle the gelatin over the top of the water. You don't need to mix or do anything crazy here. And just set it aside to bloom. While that's blooming, we're going to spray a paper towel with some non-stick cooking spray and use this to lightly grease all of our panna cotta molds. This is only essential if you plan on flipping your panna cotta to serve. Otherwise, you can just skip this step. Next, I'm blending up a can of coconut milk just to help ensure that the end result is super silky smooth, because we're not going to heat our coconut milk to a really high temperature. I just find that this step really helps in a smooth and creamy end result while still being able to use a can of coconut milk with a reasonable fat content. I don't recommend using a carton of coconut milk just because it doesn't have the same thickness. So then we're going to add our coconut milk to a pot over medium-low heat, and by this time our gelatin should look a little something like this, and it's ready to go directly into the pot with the milk. And again, over medium-low heat, we're just going to whisk this together and continue to whisk until all of that gelatin is completely incorporated with the milk. This is one of the most important steps in getting that creamy smooth end result, because if you don't take the time to fully dissolve and incorporate the gelatin into the milk, you could end up with a grainy texture, and nobody wants that. So I recommend cooking this down until you can coat the back of a spoon and run your finger through it without feeling any gritty graininess at all. And then you're ready to remove this mixture from the heat. And immediately after that, we're going to add in our sugar. I'm using about 1/3 of a cup of white granulated sugar, and immediately whisking that in, we're going to use the residual heat of that milk to dissolve that sugar completely before adding our vanilla extract and all of our heavy cream. I'm using about 1.5 cups of heavy cream here. And we'll just whisk all of this together just to make sure it's evenly incorporated. Because the sugar went into that hot milk first, it should have already dissolved by now, and we're really just stirring to combine the rest of the ingredients. I like to add a pinch of salt here too, and just whisk one more time. Again, a good test to know that you are ready to pour your panna cotta into the molds is using the back of a spoon and making sure there's no grittiness, making sure that sugar has fully dissolved. And then from there, you are ready to pour your panna cotta into your prepared molds. Now, it's kind of up to you what you want to use to set your panna cotta. You can either use really pretty glassware that you have in your kitchen, or you can grease molds like this or ramekins, and this is really nice if you're planning to flip them and have that kind of leveled up presentation, but totally optional. Honestly, I think it's just as beautiful either way. And then it's also up to you how big or small you want these to be. So if you want several small panna cottas, you can pour less into each mold. Or if you want large panna cottas, you can, add more to each mold. I ended up with about 4 pretty good sized panna cottas. I feel like I could have split this up into 6 instead and had a little bit smaller portions, but it's really just up to you and your preference. And if you plan to top them with a lot of stuff, just plan accordingly. Okay, so once all of that liquid has poured into your molds, you are ready to transfer these carefully to the fridge. I like to cover them just to make sure they're clean, and they need to set for about 4 hours to look a little something like this. They should be solid and no longer liquid. And the rest of my tips are all about how to get this out of the mold carefully. So skip this if you're just going to serve directly out of your containers. But I recommend setting the molds into a container of warm water, just enough water to go up the sides, but not to cover, of course. And then gently loosening the sides, the edges, with a knife just along the top. Only let it set in the water for a minute max, because we don't want it to warm or melt the panna cotta. And then flip. This is where the magic happens. It should come out of the mold quickly, and then you're ready to serve. I like pairing this with some kind of tropical fruit. I just think it complements the coconut flavor really well. But you could do a berry compote, you could do a chocolate sauce, really whatever you like. And then you are ready to dig in. Like I said earlier, the texture is everything in this dessert. It is so rich, but also light and creamy smooth, silky, almost like a pudding and an ice cream and jello. Words truly do not do it justice. You've got to give it a try for yourself. Enjoy!